Okay, folks, it's now time to begin the next case. This is case 44. Looks like I'm going to get to go to the next case for free. Graveyard Shift. Matthew, I see you're up late, like me. Nights in Grim Chapel can be foreboding, and your first investigation led us into the realm of witchcraft already. But an experienced detective recognizes common law breaking when he sees it, even if it's disguised as sorcery. Like this alleged pact between the Rochesters and the devil, it might fool the common man, but not us. It's already obvious that this devil is an ordinary mortal chasing money. They helped Larry Rochester kill the deputy mayor, and Senior Trooper Matthews, something terrible's happened. I was patrolling near the old cemetery, and I stumbled upon a dead body. You found a dead body in the cemetery? My dear constable, that is where dead bodies belong. Detective Bontemps, you don't understand. This body isn't buried. The fellow's lying slumped over a tombstone, and a vampire sucked him dry of blood. A vampire now? Constable, the beaming moon must have played with your senses. Why don't you go to bed and leave this matter to us? Senior Trooper Matthew and I shall investigate the cemetery at once.
Hospital officials say the ELA Hospital Warehouse is the busiest one in the city. Its gas station across the street is the busiest on the line. Cahula's Hospital gas station is the busiest. That's what it said. Busiest hospital world. Are making history with a surf competition in California.
Aha. Broken statue. Shrine.
Four-way explored to each direction. It's a man-made way.
Oh my. Do we know this person? We'll find out.
She won the women's draw. And the waves was fixing it.
I just like when it comes on the wall like that. It's amazing.
That's some high technology stuff.
They got me kind of saving it.
Yeah.
All right, Brandy, you guys here with the
Bring on the Big West this week. The Rainbow Walking into the boat.
That's right, and ladies have been gaining momentum.
My word! Matthew, this fellow's not only dead, but he's so pale. There doesn't seem to be an ounce of blood left in him. But I don't see any wound, except these puncture marks on his neck. Are we supposed to believe that a vampire bit this man and drank his blood? Horse feathers. A poor naive soul like Constable Ramirez may believe in vampires, but you and I know that someone in Grim Chapel is exploiting people's superstitions to disguise murders. Richard will explain to us how this fellow really died. It would help to know the victim's name, but for now, we only have his initials on his tie. E.W. What about other clues, Matthew? Sharp eye. That tombstone ornament might have been broken by the killer. Putting it back together should give us a lead. And with due respect to the dead, we may have to inspect that shrine as well. Those holy objects so close to the body might hide something. Matthew, the night is dark, but it's our duty to shine the light of reason on this ghastly crime. Let us proceed. And I need to get some stars. Sit tight, everyone. Sorry guys, seems my tablet stopped recording, but I'm going to get the results of the shrine now because I got myself a total of 10 stars. Callum Edwards. Matthew, you found a flask in that shrine. By Jove, who'd honor the dead with alcohol? I see, there's a name on the flask. Callum Edwards. Our victim's initials were E.W., so this Callum cannot be him. But you're right, this nocturnal drinker might identify our victim. Time to question Mr. Edwards. But I did get the first tidbit on there. We're
disposition any better since you got it.
we're not far off from this.
Randy's just doing his job.
We're not far off from the ending of this. Only 16 more cases,
I'll see you later.
including this one. Mr. Edwards, Senior Trooper Matthew found your flask in the cemetery. Can you explain? I'm sorry for drinking and littering, Senior Trooper Matthew. It was my friend's fault. It was Edgar who wanted to make merry. Edgar, you say? Is he a bespectacled fellow whose last name starts with a W? That's him, all right. Edgar Woe, the poet and my boyhood friend. Almost said boyfriend. Boyhood friend. Are you holding him in your cells too, Senior Trooper Matthew? I'm afraid we're holding him in the morgue, Callum. Your friend was murdered in the cemetery tonight. Murdered? Heavens, what dreadfully sobering news. You see, Edgar and I went to the Steak and Garlic, a tavern near the woodland. We had a drink, then another. I don't remember how we ended up in the cemetery. We must have passed out because when I woke up, Edgar was still asleep on a tombstone. And then I heard a wolf howl in the graveyard and I ran away. It looks like you were the last person to see your friend alive. We better keep you here until you sober up. Meanwhile, Senior Trooper Matthew and I shall retrace Edgar's steps to this tavern you mentioned. And we will do that, but first, let's do the broken statue.
Being a mom of these 5 girls is a lot of work, but it's organized. Yeah, there's a system to it.
Ooh, creepy stuff. Matthew, this tombstone ornament is a classic representation of death. But you're right, someone left a message on the statue. Your time has run out, just like your blood. Tarnation, we do know someone whose blood has run out, our victim, so this inscription must have been left by the killer. Sharp eye, Matthew. There's also a symbol on the statue. Evie will ascertain its meaning. This is 3 hours. All right.
Massages, anti-inflammatories, creams, wraps, but there's something you haven't tried. It's called Autopsy, and for a limited time, you can try it free. Oxy Rub is developed by Dr. Joseph Pergolesi, a physician and world-renowned pain management expert.
Ha, horse. Bon Temps has a fear of horses.
In just minutes, Oxy Rub
Silver locket.
deep inside your joints and muscles to soothe pain from arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis, strains, sprains, and more, and offers relief for bones. Plus, it's safe to use every day and as often as you need for fast pain relief. And now for a limited time,
There we are.
Oxy Rub free. That's right, a 30-day supply free. Because life is better without pain. Now experience the powerful relief of Oxy Rub absolutely free.
All right.
Just pay shipping and handling. For your free 30-day supply, call now or go
Matthew,
to
this tavern looks like the only safe haven in this dreary woodland. What did...
OxyRub.com today.
Whoa, a horse. Dear Lord, Matthew, it's huge.
Just came in from the cow police.
Yes, I see there's something in his mouth, Matthew. And if this horse was a pony, I would bravely seize it. But this beast could hack my hand off.
You said you had the case file. I was wrong. What?
All right, Matthew, I can do this. I shall slowly reach for the paper in the beast's mouth.
Unexplained money coming into Hawaii. Not enough heavens. It's coming out of Reynolds.
Oh gosh.
They're white in New York.
There, Matthew, I have it. It's soggy and faded, but now that I've done the hardest part, you're welcome to retrieve the writing on the paper.
But it started to say.
But we shan't forget that you found a locket too. Let's open it and see what's inside. So much excitement, but we must press on and see what these clues tell us about the victim's night at this tavern.
Genius, Joe. I never thought anyone would be able to straighten out these accounts.
Thank you, sir. It wasn't just the arithmetic and computer coach were corrupted.
Well, I'm assigning you to the same kind of troubleshooting at our dealer branch. And boosting your salary 10%.
That's very generous of you, sir.
Got a lot of friends in here.
Good start. They'll be expecting you tomorrow morning.
55252.
One thing, sir. About the economy.
92259.
What about it?
If I could spend one more day on it and meet with you
Two,
for half an hour tomorrow.
5 9 6 5. Got it.
Just a minute.
Ooh. Matthew, the locket you opened holds 2 portraits inside. The man is undoubtedly our victim, Edgar Woe. But who's this fair maiden opposite him? You're right. We ought to return to the airship and consult our records.
Observe your election. We did receive the additional 2 million we dispatched on behalf of our chosen candidate. Frankly, we're very concerned about objective.
I feel we've seen her before, but I don't know.
I've made it abundantly clear that it's not in our interest to see Randall Thompson's essential.
Doing the best we can.
Nope, Annabel Lee.
Just go to Danny.
Matthew, the maiden in the victim's locket is known by the name of Annabel Lee. She must have been our victim's sweetheart. Then we must inform Annabel about Edgar's death. A sad obligation. Sweet Edgar's dead, you say? I must be dreaming. Please shake me awake from this nightmare, kind strangers. Sadly, it's not a dream, Miss Annabel. Edgar's been killed. We understand he was your beloved? Edgar loved me with a love that was more than love. The angels in heaven took him, Senior Trooper Matthew. They envied our happiness. I fear it wasn't angels, Miss Annabel, but a human with devilish intentions who ended Edgar's life. Did Mr. Woe have any enemies? Who'd want to harm a poet? Edgar wrote beautiful verse, all dedicated to me. And now the world is robbed of his poetry, and I am robbed of his love. Miss Annabel, we're sincerely sorry. Try to rest now and stay indoors. We'll send someone around to check on you. Matthew, this note I rescued from that fearsome beast is a permission to stable a horse at the tavern. And it was issued to our victim, Edgar Woe. Very considerate of his horse to have surrendered this evidence. You're right, Matthew. The innkeeper must remember our victim if he issued this permission. Let's speak to this Mr. Oland. William Oland. Okay.
Son instead of some other
If he remembers the victim.
Okay, what?
Welcome to the Steak and Garlic. What can I get you? Senior Trooper Matthew and I are from the Flying Squad, investigating the murder of Edgar Woe. He stabled his horse here tonight. I remember Edgar and his friend. Murdered, you say? Well, they can't say I didn't warn them. Warn them of what? The dangers lurking in the woodland. Can you not hear the creatures of the night howling and growling with madness? Looks like the biggest danger Edgar faced was drinking too much of your tipple. He passed out in the cemetery after we left your tavern and... Let me guess. Hell's gates opened, and the demons swarmed out and took him. I cautioned them not to go outside. I did. And if you're wise, you'll stay here until daybreak, too. Thank you for your concern, good sir, but we have a murder to solve. But you might hear from us again. That's gonna do. And I'll see you guys when these two are finished. See y'all then. Okay, folks, we've returned. Let's get the results of the autopsy. What a night, Matthew. The wolves are howling outside, and now this man with all the blood sucked out of him. Sucked out? Richard, I hope you're not suggesting there was anything supernatural about this death.
And following up, the search continues.
On the contrary, while the killer made an obvious attempt to stage the murder as a vampire attack, I can tell you how they really did it. The puncture wounds Matthew observed on the victim's neck are not teeth marks, but perforations made with a hypodermic syringe. After piercing the carotid artery, all the killer needed was a small hand pump and a container of approximately 5 liters with which to drain the victim's blood. The killer used a pump to exsanguinate the victim? A truly devilish deed. But Matthew's right. Why didn't the victim defend himself? The answer to that is in the victim's stomach. He consumed approximately 17 pints of beer. The killer didn't need to subdue him. He was too drunk to protest. But that's not all, Matthew. I found one curious thing in the victim's neck wound. A single hair belonging to a cat. The placement of the hair suggests it came from the needle, and therefore the killer. You know how cats shed their hair everywhere. The killer must have a cat as a companion. Well, their cat will bring bad luck to the killer now that Matthew's on their trail.
We've learned the man seen in a video touching a young girl on a city bus has been arrested. 65-year-old Jessie Mockabit was arrested this morning, accused of inappropriate...
First witches, now vampires. Matthew, looks like we're on another journey into the occult. Such enthusiasm for superstition does not befit a member of the flying squad, Evelyn. Now, Mr. Bontemps, we all know you'd never play a big game of chess without your gree-gree. That's not the same thing at all. It's not superstition, it's tradition. But let's talk about this symbol Matthew found on a statue by the body. Well, the message itself was written in ashes, using the charred bones of goats, a tradition, if you wish, in vampire lore. And the symbol is taken from a little-known version of Dracula's legend. It's a rune representing wrath, one of the 7 deadly sins. In short, Matthew, your killer warned the victim that his death was imminent, for he'd invoked the wrath of a vampire. Of course, you know your killer is just an ordinary mortal, but one who's well-versed in vampire lore and proud to show it off. Well, if our killer is a vampire expert, we shall bring some garlic along with the handcuffs when we arrest him, Matthew. Matthew, what a peculiar night. We're dealing with the case of a dead poet who was found with the blood drained from his body. The murder bears all the marks of a vampire attack, but we know it's all smoke and mirrors. Someone in Grim Chapel, known as the Devil, is helping people disguise murders as supernatural attacks. They helped Larry Rochester, and they might have had a hand in this murder too. But who could have wanted the poet dead? His muse, his friend, or the innkeeper who... Matthew, drop everything. You've received a dinner invitation. It is imperative that you attend. A dinner invitation? But Chief, we're in the middle of a murder investigation. Say not a word, Bontemps. Trust me, this is an invitation you cannot refuse. Matthew, get ready.
We've had a nice week-long run with trade winds, and that trade wind weather will continue, so we don't have any threats in the weather threat index, not only for tomorrow, but for the...
And I'll see you guys for Chapter 2. See y'all later. Okay, folks, we have come back, and let's start Chapter 2 of Graveyard Shift. Matthew, we know someone in Grim Chapel is helping people stage seemingly supernatural murders, but which one of our suspects desired the demise of Edgar Woe? Oh yeah, now I remember this. Count Damien von Blutzauger seldom invites people to his castle, but when he does, it's unwise to refuse. Matthew, I should warn you that the Count is rumored to be a... Please don't tell us he's a vampire, Chief. I'm sure it's only a rumor. Just be polite and do whatever he wants, and nothing bad will happen. Good luck. Matthew, I don't believe for a second this Count is really a vampire, but if he purports to be one, he might be involved in our bloodless poet's demise. We better see him at once.
Readers and locations are making investments and we provide you with the latest market research so you can point and say, future brewers can attend our seminars so they can say,
Thank you for accepting my invitation, Senior Trooper Matthew. My cat Lucifer and I never leave the castle, but the owls bring us news from town. I've heard of your famed detective skills. I also know about that vampire attack in the cemetery, and I decided to give you my version of the events before your suspicion naturally turns to me. Your version of the events? Do you mean you saw the victim tonight? You could say that. Edgar broke into my castle, drunk as a sailor, wishing to see a real vampire. He was most disappointed to hear that it wasn't the time of the month when I shapeshifted into a bat and drank human blood. I sent Edgar on his way, unscathed. I see. The problem is he then went to the cemetery, where we found him dead, with all the blood drained from his body. Count Damien, I hope you understand that Senior Trooper Matthew will have to look around your castle. Do as you wish, Senior Trooper Matthew. I'll leave you to it, for dawn is close and I must hide from the light.
just a loose ridge to keep your car. Nothing more, nothing less. Join our team?
Yes. But first, can I get an autograph?
Sure.
Call 643-4000 or visit islandinsurance.com.
This portion of the K2N2 News is sponsored by Island Insurance.
Okay. I still didn't do this yet as a...
Hey, welcome back, folks. Nearly 3 months after suffering a paralyzing spinal injury after diving headfirst into shallow waters in Waikiki, University of Washington is aligned with Mel Tala. Reunited with his teammates today in Colorado. Rainbow Warriors made a stopover in England this morning.
I am considering another pet, but we will see. Maybe 2. But unsure. Victim satchel. Pocket watch, torch. 5 seconds.
Doesn't matter where any of our family is.
And that's the first star.
If you take a look at the beanies, you know,
Matthew, Count Damien goes to great lengths to adopt the appearance of a vampire. Have you seen that coffin he keeps in the hallway?
couldn't sneak yet.
Ah, but I see you found some clues. I concur. That satchel belonged to the victim. We better inspect its contents. And that porcelain might have been knocked down by Edgar as he broke in. Piecing it back together shall be enlightening.
He was all about philosophy of living a little hard, you know, and then playing over here when it's time to play football. And I think that's why we see how glorious these guys.
Awesome stuff. Saturday's game will be televised on ESPN2. One more we'll be watching. Kickoff between the Bulls and Cowboys every Saturday, 4:15 Hawaii time. Don't forget, folks, come to Hawaii High School Football Weekly is next. That's where we can be
All right, Seth, thanks for your last time.
There we are. Aha. Draft poem. Matthew, this poem you found in Edgar's bag might reveal his thoughts from the night he died. Let's see. It was many and many a year ago, in a village by the trees, that I broke the heart of a maiden you'll know by the name of Annabel Lee. Matthew, I don't know much about poetry, but this one's quite clearly about Edgar abandoning his darling Annabel. Except Annabel never said anything about this. On the contrary, she said the angels were jealous of their happiness. You're right, Matthew. We better talk to Edgar's muse again. Annabel, we found one of Edgar's poems about breaking your heart, but you never mentioned him leaving you. poetry shouldn't be taken literally, Senior Trooper Matthew, especially not Edgar's. He was so artfully inconsistent. Edgar saw me as his muse for every shade of love, from faithful devotion to the despair of abandonment. He wanted to experience every emotion with me. But deep down, Edgar was just like my kitten, Mephisto. He'd wander off, but always come back to me before long. Well, he never did come back from his wanderings in the cemetery. You don't need to remind me that my Edgar's dead. If only he'd carried the holy water I'd given him to fend off the vampires. Senior Trooper Matthew, if demons didn't take him, who did? Senior Trooper Matthew will find out, and his killer's lies will crumble to dust at the first ray of sunshine.
What about this guy?
This guy has been through a lot.
Okay. Matthew, this dish you restored is splattered with blood. Tarnation. If this is the victim's blood, then Count Damien lied to us about letting Edgar leave unscathed. We must send this dish to Viola at once.
Who I am and where I came from. I did my ancestry
Okay.
DNA, and I couldn't wait to get my pie chart. The most shocking result was that
12 hours, and I'll see you guys when this is over. Okay, folks, I'm back on Internet Explorer with this again, but I'm under Unlimited Energy Happy Hour, so I'm going to speed this up for 22. Matthew, did I tell you that lunch with my father was a success? I was very nervous after what I'd heard about him, but he was really kind. I think I'm going to meet him again. Well, have to take your word for it, Viola. Now what about the... Of course, Matthew. You want to know about this dish you found in Count Damien's castle. The blood is indeed the victim's. Botheration. I didn't believe for a second that Count Damien was a real vampire, but if the victim's blood is on this dish, he'll have some explaining to do. Wait until you hear the rest, Matthew. I found some fingerprints on the dish. Some of them were the victim's, but others belong to a certain Amelia Batts. I've checked our records, and Mrs. Batts is Count Damien's housekeeper. A housekeeper? You're right, Matthew. We better get acquainted with this Mrs. Batts. Mrs. Batts, we understand you work as Count Damien's housekeeper? That's right, dear. The Count never leaves the castle, so I do his shopping. Groceries, cat food, fresh dirt for the coffin he sleeps in. I know what you think, Senior Trooper Matthew. The Count is somewhat peculiar, but he really wouldn't hurt a fly. It's those young layabouts you should really do something about. They keep breaking into the castle just to gawk at the Count, and I have to clean up the mess they make. Perchance this explains the blood we found on this dish. The man who cut himself breaking it ended up murdered a few hours later. Murdered? Serves him right for getting liquored up in the tavern before trespassing and breaking dishes. That's all I have to say about this matter. We shan't disturb your sleep any longer then, Mrs. Batts, until new evidence comes to light, that is. Now, Matthew, everything seems to come back to the victim getting drunk in the tavern. What say you would take a fresh look at the place?
Plan allows us to consolidate all of Max's operations and creates new space for a patient. And now the toll coming in provides
Voila, 3 seconds.
Work is expected to get underway in the first part of next year. Reporting from Honolulu Harbor, Catherine Cruz, Island News.
Opposition to the latest plan to replace
Matthew, someone dropped a sketchbook in the mud, but I trust you can recover the rest of the drawings. And what is that locked case doing here? Let's open it. Matthew, these clues might shed light on Edgar's final hours. Let us proceed. Okay. There we are. Portrait. Matthew, you revealed a portrait of a lady we know, Annabel Lee. So she wasn't only Edgar's muse. Indeed, this drawing is signed by the victim's friend, Callum Edwards. Matthew, I'm not an expert like our Diego. I'm not an art expert like our Diego, but could a man draw the likeness of a lovely woman without coveting that beauty for himself? What if Callum competed with Edgar for Annabel's heart? Then it could have given Callum a motive for murder. You're right, Matthew. Callum has hopefully sobered up enough to clarify this matter. Callum, we thought you and Edgar were friends. What should we make of this portrait you drew of his beloved Annabel? Ah, you found my sketchbook, Senior Trooper Matthew. I shan't deny I had feelings for Annabel, and Edgar only courted her to rub his superiority in my face. He always had to prove he was the better man. He bragged that he had more money, that his horse was faster. He even claimed my own cat Smokey loved him more than me. But tonight, I decided to have the last laugh. It was me who sent Edgar to break into the castle, hoping he'd get his comeuppance from Count Damien. Comeuppance. You send Edgar to the castle, hoping the Count would harm him? I know enough about vampires to know the Count's only pretending to be one, but I hoped at least he'd unleash his dogs on a burglar. But Edgar came back from the castle unscathed, so my prank didn't cause his death. He only had himself to blame, and I refused to take responsibility.
the death toll in Tuesday's 7.1 earthquake in Mexico City is now at 245. Rescue crews held their fists up as a call for silence today as they listened for sounds of survivors in the rubble. At a ruined elementary school, workers have spent the last few days looking for anyone that may be trapped inside. The next
T2Q.
19 of them.
07F.
6 teachers were also killed. Mexico's president calling them for 3 days.
Matthew, you found a syringe in the case. Finally, a ray of hope breaks through the darkness. Richard said the pretend vampire bites on the victim's neck were made with a needle. We must get this syringe to Viola, post-haste. Okay. 12 hours also, and I'll see you guys for that tomorrow. For now, this is Matthew. See you then. Okay, we have returned back, and let's get the results of the syringe. Matthew, I can confirm that this is the syringe the killer used to puncture the victim's carotid artery. Some of Edgar's blood was still on the tip. Ha! Keen as the killer were to impersonate a vampire, their fangs turn out to be nothing but metal. Viola, did the killer leave their fingerprints on this instrument? Unfortunately not, but I did find a strange substance on the surface. And it turned out to be red wine. The killer must have had a glass to steady their nerves before handling the syringe. So our killer drinks red wine. That's better than drinking human blood, but it'll land them in jail just the same. Matthew, is it just me or have the skies got darker? Most fitting since we're stumbling in the dark with Edgar Woe's murder. We learned that Edgar's friend Callum was secretly jealous of him. So while drunk, he made Edgar break into the castle on the hill. There, Edgar and Count Damien, who... What the devil was that? It sounded like the howl of... Holy crap. Matthew, I think there's something lurking in the dark. Yikes. And I'll see you guys for Chapter 3. Alright, folks, we have returned, and let's start Chapter 3 of Graveyard Shift. Oh. You're just bats, aren't you? Leave us alone, bats! Be gone! Off you go! Matthew, I think they're gone. Lord, for a second there I thought... Tarnation. I'm not going to start believing in this vampire hogwash now. A trickster called the devil may be pretending to command demonic forces, but we know it's clever deception, nothing more. Matthew, we shall listen to nothing but reason. We must push on and find the real killer of Edgar Woe. I agree. We should take a fresh look at Count Damien's castle. Still haven't decided whether I'm gonna get another pet now, but I do have the cat to raise to full. Here we are. Matthew, that box is adorned with an infernal creature, but we haven't come this far to be deterred by painted demons. Let's open it at once. And you found a banknote with the victim's name on it. But what are those wood shavings covering the rest? We better collect a sample. Now these pots and pans belong in the kitchen. The housekeeper didn't lie about the mess Edgar made when he broke into the castle. Let's see if these pots hide a clue. Matthew, we must expose this pretend vampire who killed Edgar Woe before they go into hiding at daybreak. That we will. And let's get this. Let's get those coins shared. Matthew, vacuuming those wood shards from the banknote revealed a message. Edgar, this won't be enough. It looks like Edgar owed money to someone. Matthew, if you reckon examining these shards under the microscope will tell us more, we shall do it at once. Ah, just missed the 9. Crushed peanut shells. Matthew, the powder you collected from the banknote is a mixture of sawdust and crushed peanut shells. Sawdust and peanut shells? From my limited experience, they're things one might find in a drinking establishment. This bill must have come from the tavern. And let's not forget the message on the banknote. Matthew, you reckon Edgar had a financial dispute at the steak and garlic? I agree, Matthew. We must talk to the innkeeper to find out. Mr. Oland, we found the message you wrote to Edgar on this banknote. Did he forget to pay his bill? By the devil's hip flask, I didn't think you'd find that, Senior Trooper Matthew. Yes, I admit it's true. The scoundrel owed me 348 shillings. Edgar came here every night. Sometimes he brought his pal, sometimes his lady friend. They always drank my best red wine. I knew Edgar had money, but he always promised to pay tomorrow. And when I insisted he settle his bill, he threw 5 shillings in my face. So you decided to collect the debt by making Edgar pay with his life? Oh, I didn't need to kill Edgar, Senior Trooper Matthew. I knew the vampires in the woodland would take care of him. I only wish they'd taken his useless friend, too. Alright. It's 2. The Wise Witch. Book of Witchcraft. Matthew, what is this book doing among pots and pans? It's called The Wise Witch. Sharp eye. A page is marked with a bookmark. Let's see. Advice to aging ladies. Bathe in the blood of a virgin man at midnight and you shall regain your youthful beauty. Bathing in human blood? How repugnant. Matthew, you reckon this could be connected to Edgar's murder? After all, someone did drain his blood. Could it have been to bathe in it? You're right. The book's advice is for aging ladies, and there is one living in this castle, the housekeeper. Mrs. Bats has some explaining to do. Mrs. Bats, we found this book among your pots. Admit it, you're a believer in witchcraft. Don't be silly, Senior Trooper Matthew. The Wise Witch isn't witchcraft, just light entertainment for the ladies. Not everyone's clever enough to read poetry, you know. Light entertainment? So you didn't really believe that draining the blood of young Edgar would restore your youthful beauty? What are you insinuating, Detective Bontemps? That I'm not youthful and beautiful as I am? I don't need no witchcraft for that, I'll have you know. Besides, young Edgar wasn't a virgin, and I loathe to cover myself in blood for nothing. Heck, I don't even like gutting fish. We'll take your word for it, Mrs. Bats, but if Senior Trooper Matthew finds out Edgar's blood is on your hands, you'll be scrubbing the prison floor before long. Nosferatu. Matthew, I recognize this machine. It is a voice recorder. My word, even a self-styled vampire like Count Damien espouses modern technology. Let us send this device to Charlie and see if he can charm a fresh lead out of it. Nine hours, and I'll see you guys when this is done. For now, this is Matthew. See you then. Okay, folks, we have come back, and let's get the results of the recording device. Hello, Matthew. I expect you wish to hear about this machine from Count Damien's castle. Charles, my man, you look positively haggard. What's troubling you? I'm so busy developing the Concordia telephone company. Maddie's starting to bemoan the fact that she never sees me despite living together. But a DuPont always seeks knowledge, and I have a lot of knowledge to seek about running a company. Anyway, your machine. The Count mainly used it to record spooky noises, presumably to play them in the castle to scare off visitors. That wouldn't surprise me. The Count is rather unsociable and intent on making people believe he's a vampire. But there's more. The machine also recorded a conversation between Edgar and the Count. When the Count announced he was a vampire craving human blood, Edgar burst out laughing. The more the Count insisted that he was immortal and in command of an army of werewolves, the harder Edgar laughed. So Edgar didn't fall for the Count's performance. I'd applaud his healthy skepticism, but the Count probably thought it discourteous. And what if the Count retaliated by killing Edgar in a classic vampire fashion? You're right, Matthew. We must talk to him again.
1,000 miles of high-speed rail has been laid in China, and experts claim the technology can be adapted for overseas railways.
Care for a glass of red wine, Senior Trooper Matthew? It's the closest thing to blood that I can find, and I don't mind sharing. Thank you, but we're not here to enjoy your hospitality. Senior Trooper Matthew found a recording of your encounter with Edgar Woe. That little scoundrel humiliated me in my own home, as if trespassing in the middle of the night wasn't enough. He called me a circus clown. He asked if he could try on my fangs. Count Damien, please. Forgive me, Senior Trooper Matthew, but you must admit that my vampire impersonations are painstakingly sophisticated. Surely it wouldn't have killed Edgar to let out a polite scream. No, it wouldn't have, but having the blood drained from his body certainly did. Senior Trooper Matthew, a vampire wouldn't have time for these accusations. You just have to prove them yourself. But hurry, dawn is close. Matthew, they say it's always darkest before the dawn, and I see no ray of hope in this macabre case. We discover that Edgar offended Count Damien by mocking his vampire impersonation, which may have driven the Count to kill Edgar exactly like a vampire would have. Meanwhile, Mrs. Batts was reading about bathing in the blood of virgins. She says it was just literature, but the lines between reality and fiction seem blurry in people's minds in Grim Chapel. Our most rational suspect may be the innkeeper, who was simply trying to collect the money the victim owed him. Matthew, how are we to ascertain which one of them killed Edgar Woe? You reckon we should return to the cemetery? Then let the light of reason illuminate our path. Oh, that's not a clue? Okay, not my best one. Alright. Don't mind that, that's my local news. Please disregard it. My word! This looks like a broken container, and it's covered in blood. Richard told us that the killer pumped Edgar's blood into a container. Matthew, this broken glass must be it. We should restore it at once. And that copper bowl has some dirt inside. Collecting a sample might prove informative. Do I see the first rays of hope pierce the dark clouds of our night, Matthew? Let's examine these clues at once. Alright. Nine. Just in time. Matthew, this is definitely the container Richard mentioned. That hose attached probably served to drain the victim's blood into the bottle. I concur. Richard should examine this apparatus at once. We may have found our murder weapon at last.
Damien quarterback of the Monarchs. First score of the game in the second quarter after Neil Lighting. Went on a 28-0 first quarter lead.
Alright. Examine the bowl. I'm going to let these two run their courses. Let's see if I can get a 9 again here. No, I'm not gonna. Oh, but I'm still gonna make it past. Matthew, let's send that dirt from the bowl to Viola without delay. Daybreak is close and our killer may be closer. I'll see you guys when these two are finished. Thanks for watching. Okay, folks, we have come back. Let's get the results of the blood pump. Tell us, Richard, what did you glean from this apparatus Matthew found in the cemetery? The evidence speaks for itself, Matthew. The blood on the glass is definitely the victim's, and the mechanism is perfectly suited to drain the blood of a man of Edgar's build. In short, this is indeed the blood pump the killer used to exsanguinate the victim. Matthew, it's not as if we needed more proof that our killer isn't a vampire but a cunning mortal, but this will seal their fate. Wait until you hear what I've also discovered. A strand of blonde hair was stuck inside the glass, and as you know, Edgar had dark hair, so this must be the killer's. Our killer may have fair hair, but their heart is as dark as the night. But now, we're a step closer to bringing them to justice.
I did. It was very creative. I recommend it.
Now, did you know there was a raid?
No. It's terrible. Backstage? During the show, actually, on the last set.
On the dirt? Matthew, this dirt you found in the bowl is ash. More specifically, the ashes of goat bones. Goat bones? Quite right, Matthew. I recall Evie saying the killer used the ashes of goat bones to write on that statue you found. Tell us, Viola, was there anything in the sample that may lead us to our killer? I did find traces of sulfamic acid in your sample. It's a water-soluble compound most commonly used to polish silver jewelry. So our killer wears silver jewelry. Matthew, the answer's just been handed to us on a silver platter. Matthew, you have all the evidence to arrest the pretend vampire who killed Edgar Woe. Let reason triumph over their deception at last.
Mom would always say you go to Burlington when you need a new coat. I love the jewelry. They have everything from basic dresses,
Shoes and socks.
sweaters, great fragrances, all the great brands at a fraction of the cost. It's Burlington Coat Factory. It's just Burlington. Burlington.
Sorry for the wobbliness, folks. Oh. It is indeed the sweetheart, Annabel Lee. Annabel Lee, you're under arrest for the murder of Edgar Woe. Such chilling words. Senior Trooper Matthew, you strike my terror into my heart. Your heart isn't as faint as you pretend, Miss Annabel. You had the macabre courage to kill Edgar and leave him bloodless in the cemetery. I never set foot in the cemetery. Creatures of evil wander there, preying upon the souls of mortals. Those evil creatures are your own conjectures, but the vampire symbol you painted on the statue didn't fool Senior Trooper Matthew. Terrible accusations. Edgar was my beloved, bestowed upon me by the angels. Why would I drain the blood from his body, the color from his cheeks? Why, indeed, we found the syringe and the blood pump you used to fabricate a vampire attack, but the blonde hair stuck to the bottle came from you. Confess, Annabel, why did you kill the man who loved you, who saw you as his muse? His muse? Me and every other woman in town. If that scoundrel didn't want to get killed, he shouldn't have played around. Edgar was unfaithful to you? You could say that. A week ago, I chanced upon a secret notebook and found his love poems to Lenore and Morella, and who knows how many others. It turns out he'd been carrying on with other women behind my back for years. No doubt they all believed they were the only ones. I wasted my best years on Edgar. I turned down perfectly good marriage proposals, and all I got in return was a drunkard and a cheat. Well, tonight I finally had enough. I found him so drunk he didn't even feel the prick of my needle in his neck. Watching his blood draining into the jar was curiously satisfying. He'd broken my spirit, so I took his blood. Well, you do have one thing in common with vampires. You killed in cold blood. You're under arrest for murder. Annabel Lee, you stand accused of murdering your beloved Edgar Woe. How do you plead? Guilty, Your Honor. For years, I hoped that Edgar would get his head out of the clouds, propose to me, and look out to me like a real man. But he kept saying he wanted a muse, not a wife. Well, it turns out he had more than one muse. He had at least 3. Draining the blood from his body seemed like a fitting end to him, and I thought leaving him in the cemetery at night would create the perfect illusion of a vampire attack. You thought your vampire story would fool Senior Trooper Matthew? Your contempt for the police and justice is even more monstrous than the murder you committed. Annabel Lee, you're sentenced to life without parole. You shall walk the streets of Concordia again as a free citizen. Never more. In prison for life? Dash it! I'll never have a chance to be happily married now. Matthew, what a tragic waste. Annabel killed a man fueled by jealousy and ruined her own life as well. But you're right. Disguising a murder as a vampire attack is exactly the sort of thing the devil's known for. You reckon the elusive mastermind who helped Larry Rochester murder Sandra Huang also had a hand in Annabelle's vampire decoy? You're right, Matthew. We must dig deeper to find answers. Let us reconvene and face this devil once and for all.
Wealthy older man looking for young women to exploit? Who's being exploited here? Either it was a mutual fantasy or she's using my client's pension for kinky sex to set him up.
Role playing is healthy for consenting adults. Did you pay Megan? Never got that far. Really not that much.
I'll see you guys for Lost Souls 2-6, but first take a look at the other ones. William Olin cleared from the start. Count Blutsauger, no blonde hair.
She claims that she fought you.
Amelia Batts cleared early. Callum Edwards, no jewelry. It was Annabel Lee. I'll see you guys for Lost Souls 2-6. Alright folks, let's start Lost Souls 2-6. Matthew, I've read your report about Edgar Woe's case, and it's clear there may be a link with this devil we're looking for. Could the same person who helped Larry Rochester commit murder have assisted Annabel Lee as well? Matthew, you must amass this devil at once, whatever it takes. Judge Lawson wants this matter resolved. You'll remember Judge Lawson is hoping to be appointed as deputy mayor. We must support him by swiftly closing this case. Questioning Annabel about the devil would be a good start. I shall accompany you, Matthew. Splendid. I await your report. Matthew, there's another thing. I've just seen Bontemps. He looked troubled. Perhaps you could check what's wrong before we leave. I'll start the Madmobile while you talk to Bontemps, and then we'll visit Annabel in prison.
Could have been one of her co-workers. Where this girl grew up sheltered, she might not even recognize a predator.
So maybe Jason's cameras did.
Glad to see you, Matthew. I'm loath to trouble you with a personal matter, but I don't know who else to turn to. You might remember Marla de Paradis, a delightful cabaret dancer we met in Sinner's End. We helped her claim ownership of the Moulin Rose. We've been corresponding, and Marla finally agreed to spend an evening with me. But Marla wishes to attend a vampire ball. I'm required to wear a costume. Matthew, this puts me in a terrible predicament. What did I just hear, Matthew? Isaac is taking a lady to a ball? Diego, were you eavesdropping? Naturally, and I have a solution to your problem. You shall borrow a costume from Count Damien. I'm certain he'd be accommodating. I propose we all go to the Count's castle, Matthew. I'll help you pick out a suitable outfit. Then Isaac can take Marla to the vampire ball. You support this idea, Matthew? It's true that I cannot disappoint Marla now that she's agreed to see me. Say no more, Isaac. Just lead the way to the castle.
It's all still circumstantial. Is there anything tied into the emails?
I think so. I did a comparative statement analysis. I took Ted's press release and the rapist's email, and they both use British spelling and grammar. So it's like theater with a degree, and towards instead of toward, subjunctive tense. And then there's this little coincidence. Dixie. That was Judge Crane's role-play safe word. It's also the name of Ted's first New York play. The director, IT guy, the judge is Vicky Berger. Pretty girl new to New York City. Every guy she met was easy pride. Hey, can I ask you something? How long have you worked just for you? Don't ask. It's just how do you trust any man ever after working this job day to day?
Matthew, I knew the Count wouldn't mind Isaac borrowing one of his outfits. He left his trunk here for us to look through. I'm still not sure this vampire ball is a good idea, Matthew. I've never been to a costume ball in my life. You'll change your mind once Matthew's found something fabulous for you in this trunk, Isaac. Cloak. Matthew, this costume you found in the trunk would be perfect for the ball for Isaac. You really think so, Matthew? You can trust my fashion sense, Isaac. I only need to make some small alterations to accentuate your best features. Come to my study in a few hours. Your costume will be ready. 6 hours. And let's talk to Annabel in prison now. Miss Lee, what gave you the idea to kill Edgar in such a gruesome way, making it look like a supernatural creature did it? Admit it, you asked the devil for advice, didn't you? We know someone is helping people disguise murders in exchange for money. Money? The devil never asked me for money. They offered to help me take revenge on Edgar because they pitied me for what I endured with him. So it's true, you got help from the devil. Tell us everything, Annabel. Well, I thought it was just a legend too, but a few days ago, the devil sent me a message. They told me where to find the blood pump and what I had to do to disguise Edgar's murder as a vampire attack. The blood pump arrived in a potato sack. I threw it away near the tavern. It's still there for all I know. Senior Trooper Matthews, the devil's wicked advice cost me my freedom. If the last of my money can help you catch them, take it. Remorse came too late for you, Annabel, but we might save others from Edgar's fate. If the devil's sack is near the tavern, we shan't leave a stone unturned. Alright.
It helps me make more of my own tears. With continued use, twice a day, every day. It's also what I prescribe to my patients who have this condition.
Our stasis multi-dose helps increase your eye's natural ability to produce tears, which may be reduced by inflammation due to chronic dry eye. Our stasis multi-dose did not increase tear production in patients using anti-inflammatory eye drops or tear duct drugs. To help avoid eye injury and contamination, do not touch the bottle tip to your eye or other surfaces. Wait 15 minutes after use before inserting contact lenses. The most common side effect is a temporary burning.
Presided over his divorce 10 years ago. Any way that he's angry with you and trying to get back at you? Is someone
Matthew, this is the sack in which the devil sent the blood pump to Annabel. Her name is on it. Collecting a sample of that stain on the canvas will seal the devil's fate.
You dated a series of sugar babies. Is it possible that you and Ted have any of these women in common?
It's possible. Why?
The emails that were supposedly sent by Megan were designed to hint at your fantasy. Details that only somebody that you've been intimate with would know.
So you want to go through
You don't have to agree to this, Jeremy.
someone committed.
Matthew, let's send that sample from the stain on Annabel's sack to Viola. It might finally expose the trickster who masquerades as the devil in Grim Chapel.
The standard. She's an overnight specialist, that is. Less of a rep fast.
Keep going.
Lisa wanted me to break into her room middle of the night, attack her. She was concerned anybody might find out, so we kept in touch.
It's also 9 hours.
Anyone want to
And I'll see you all when these two are finished. Alright folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of Dark Substance. Viola were hunting for the infamous devil of Grim Chapel, and this substance Matthew found on a sack they sent to Annabel is our only lead. The devil is in the details, as they say, and your sample revealed a few details about who they might be. The substance itself was ink, so the first noteworthy detail is that your devil must be a scholar. I also found some sweat in the sample, which I put through the DNA machine, and it returned the biological markers of an older male. An older scholarly gentleman. Good thinking, Matthew. George Okamoto, the local historian, fits this description exactly. Mr. Okamoto knows everything about local folklore. He could have easily posed as the devil to offer his murderous services to Annabel. Matthew, you're right. We must speak with Mr. Okamoto.
Their mission is dedicated to taking care of its membership. Needing membership is just a winner hands.
Alright? Mr. Okamoto, the game is up. You're the blackguard posing as the devil, offering people deals on murders. Me, the devil? No, Senior Trooper Matthew, you're mistaken. I'm a mere scholar of the occult. Your knowledge of these legends only makes you more suspicious. We have forensic evidence you sent this sack to a would-be murderess. That sack? It was already empty when I found it. Senior Trooper Matthew, you have to believe me. I'm not the devil. I've been trying to contact them to write a book about them. I left a letter on a tombstone at midnight, but they never replied. I still have no idea who the devil is. A letter on a tombstone? Really? Mr. Okamoto, you'd better be truthful. If you're the devil, Senior Trooper Matthew will find proof sooner or later. I spoke the truth, Senior Trooper Matthew, and I wish you success in contacting the devil. Replenish your energy and keep pursuing them. Matthew, I'm not sure if we can believe Mr. Okamoto's claims that he's not the devil. But I do know that we'll need more damning evidence to prove it either way. Okamoto mentioned trying to contact the devil by leaving a letter on a tombstone. You reckon there's any truth in that? I agree. We have nothing to lose. Matthew, I shall write our own letter to the devil, pretending to ask for their help with the murder. If we're lucky, we'll get a reply soon.
He sees things and analyzes things in ways that we can't even begin to understand.
Alright, and let's talk to Diego now. I finished your vampire costume, Isaac. I suppose it's too late to change my mind about this ball. Nonsense, my man. Try this on and show us when you're ready. I'm always nervous when people judge my artistic creations, Matthew. So, Matthew, what do you think? You're the most dashing vampire we've ever laid eyes on. Marla will find you irresistible. You think so too, Matthew? Then let's go and greet Marla. Okay. Senior Trooper Matthew, a pleasure to see you again. But where is Isaac? I do hope he didn't change his mind about the ball. I'm here, Marla, ready to take you into a night of mystery and wonder. Oh, you look marvelous, Isaac. I can't wait to dance with you in the candlelit ballroom. Dance? You hadn't mentioned dancing before. Don't worry, Isaac. Vampires learn fast. Senior Trooper Matthew, I wish you could come with us, but at least take these for old time's sake. Matthew, the ball with Marla was most agreeable. You danced and laughed and... I'm glad you had a lovely time, Isaac. But unfortunately, there's no time for merriment. We've laid a trap for the devil by leaving a message for him on a tombstone. It's time to go back to the cemetery and see if they've responded. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Leather tube. Owl and scorpion. Got it. Matthew, that tube must hold the devil's reply to our message. Let's open it at once.
Nothing more, nothing less. Wow. So can we count on you to join our team? Yes. But first, can I get an autograph? Sure. Policy's worth $4,000, or is it not an insurance now?
Before I got sick, I always wanted to try anything that dreams. But Judy found this the perfect guy. She's been so supportive of my decision. I'm glad I chose to focus on quality of life. We've made a lot of new memories together. I took the time to prepare. When I'm gone, I know she'll be great.
74774.
Watch the sunset. Judy.
Okay, 48784. Seven, 4, 3, 7. Okay. Matthew, there's a message in the tube. Let's see. I know you are the flying squad. You cannot fool the devil. Dash my wig! So the devil knows who we are, and they're taunting us. But you're right, Matthew. If the devil thinks he'll give up now, they're in for a surprise. Let's return to the airship and decide what to do next. Matthew, we've come to Grim Chapel to expose the alleged deal the Rochesters made with the devil. And we soon discovered that the devil was a person helping people commit murder. We thought we could trap them by pretending to ask for their advice. But the devil saw through our trap. How are we going to unmask them now and stop the Rochesters' dastardly schemes? Matthew, speaking of the Rochesters, I was researching a possible connection between the family and Grim Chapel. And I found records that a Rochester is interned in Gryphon Sanctuary, the local insane asylum. A Rochester in the insane asylum? How come we never knew about that? The family clearly prefers to keep it a secret. I couldn't even uncover the first name of whoever's committed there. Yet another Rochester mystery. I agree, Matthew, the devil may be eluding us for now, but we can visit this asylum and see who the Rochesters are hiding there. Let's get ready. Alright.
Your case is cold, but it is not closed.
I'm not going to wake up and suddenly know what my ring was behind his mask.
We've cracked cases a lot more than this one.
And I do plan to do some cases in Elite mode in Mysteries of the Past, but I don't know when I will start yet. I have to get a lot of time off. Of course, I have all the energy, I can burn it up, but I don't really want to. I want to make sure that I have enough to last me a lifetime, and it looks like I do. September 28th, 4 days from now, that's on a Thursday, and I'll see you all then, but first,
I met Christopher through the site. Surprised to find your son. I never got to meet him before.
He was only 5. I just didn't know anything.
5 new ones.
Salvation is that he was asleep overnight. The thing broke in.
4 new ones.
Why did you give Christopher?
2, 4, 5.
And I just started living it all the time.
Another 5.
So I lost my job. I lost my apartment. And then I just wanted to sleep.
Only 1 new one.
He was literally like begging me to fix him so he would eat. I just thank God.
Alright.
Kevin, listen to me. You have rape trauma syndrome. It's a form of PTSD. You need therapy. And when you get better, we're gonna get Christopher back. It's never gonna happen.
Alright.
Talk to him, be crisis counselor.
I did. I joined a group. I done it all. Oh, I got nothing. I got a new home for Chris. That's all I got.
What do you mean?
That's where I met Gwen Cyber. She was a rape victim too.
And that's going to do.
So why didn't you not mention that she was a rape victim, raising another victim's sister?
That had nothing to do with Christopher.
And I'll see you all then
Years ago.
on September 28th.